my name is Valerie Shears Ashby, and I am president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC. What an honor it is to have you join this wonderful community. The one message that I have for you as you embark on this life-changing experience is that you belong here. You may be saying, now how can she say that with such assurance? She does not even know me. Well, I can tell you because UMBC is a place that welcomes all inquisitive minds. So whether you have already discovered the academic subjects you love or not, whether you are certain of the difference you want to make in the world and in your community or not, whether you are comfortable being your full, authentic self or not, whether you enter UMBC with a confident stride or with a nervous anticipation, we are thrilled and look forward to all of that.
Inclusive excellence is important. It's one of the core values here at UMBC, and I have found that people really are genuinely committed to that concept of inclusive excellence. And when I think of inclusive excellence, I think of having a space where students in particular are able to thrive, they're able to show up as their authentic selves, they're able to express themselves, they're able to learn in an environment with diverse students around them, diverse faculty, hear different perspectives, exchange different opinions, thoughts, and ideas, and learn from others around them.
Each of you belongs here and makes our university a vibrant, evolving, alive community. We are here to support you, and we are honored that you have chosen UMBC for this journey. We welcome all of who you are and all of who you are becoming. Your story belongs here.
You belong here.
Your story belongs here.
You all belong here.
Because that is part of who I am.
I was coming out of my shell.
But never let your doubt define who you are.
We are not alone.
I'm still kind of living the dream.
I was one of those kids who was always singing and dancing. Like, I could never sit still. My parents were like, oh yeah, you're meant to be a star. And they would tell that to the family and anyone who was too close to them in the grocery store. They encouraged me to do choir and band and dance and school plays and everything to try to get my creative expression out. And they told me that those things had to be hobbies. They were extracurriculars, and when I got older, I would be able to put that aside and do something practical with my life. I followed that for a while. My confidence started withering away because I started seeing all the shortcomings I had. That dream of being an actor felt so out of reach. I would look around and I wouldn't see people who looked like me unless they were the punchline of a fat joke or something racist. So when I applied to colleges, I applied as a sociology major.
There was a time when it was just me and my family. I was born to a Filipino-American mother from Hawaii and a Black American father from DC, but I didn't know all of that yet. I knew that I liked the color red, I wanted to be a doctor or an astronaut, and I loved to read. I didn't understand things like race or gender, who was okay to love, or anything like that. I was about 7 when I understood what it meant to be Black for the first time. I learned about the civil rights movement in school, and I came home upset that Black people had to experience these things just because of their skin color. My mom laughed with a little bit of concern and said, "Kainoa, you know you're Black too, right?"
So I transferred to UMBC in the fall of 2018. Prior to that, I had spent 2 years at a different school, but my mental health wasn't really that great at the time, and part of that was because I never really felt like I found a community there. I transferred, I found out about UMBC's acting program, I auditioned in, and once they said yes, I was here. I felt really good about that, but I know my mom was pretty concerned at the time. I can't even begin to tell you how much time, effort, energy, money she's put into ensuring I get a good education. We're both Korean, and a proper education is really important to our culture. When I transferred, that kind of shook things up a little bit because I was going against the norm of what a college experience should look like.
At the start of my sophomore year, I, after some conversation with my friends, came out as non-binary. I didn't find myself clicking with male or female, so I kind of went somewhere in between. I came out to my friends and family following that conversation, but after that, didn't do much. I got myself some new clothes, got myself some stickers, and started going by they, but that's kind of it. It felt like I was treading uneven ground, because there's a lot of stereotypes that non-binary people have to deal with, some of which would apply to me, like being white or middle class, some of which that don't, like being assigned female at birth or more androgynous. And I wasn't sure whether or not I should just fall into line with those stereotypes, or do everything I can to exist in spite of them. No middle ground. For that first year of being out, I didn't really do much with my identity.
I remember my first day in college, hearing that the renowned UMBC president at the time was coming to speak to the freshmen in my dorm building. So as it was speaking, it was talking about the excellence of UMBC, how UMBC have done this, they've done that. And for a brief moment, this thought just came to my head. Do I belong at UMBC? Am I good enough for UMBC? Am I only here because of not having to take SAT due to COVID? But I thought to myself, nah, that's not the case. As time went on, as I was talking, the person sitting next to me shot up and introduced himself. That was my suite mate, who also happened to be in CWIT, which is a scholars program here at UMBC, Center for Women in Technology, a program whose job it is to train students to advocate for women in the tech field. So he introduced himself, talked about how he was the valedictorian at his high school, how he had all these college credits and whatnot. And that's when I had like this moment of realization, oh my God, this guy's a genius. So that means everybody here in my scholars program on this same floor as me are also geniuses. Am I a fraud? Do I belong here? Am I good enough to be here? Should I change my major? Should I drop out? All these thoughts just like kept flooding my mind. And instead of, pushing these thoughts to the side and rejecting it, I embodied these thoughts. And this started reflecting in my academic work.
Going to college can be scary, but going back to college after 10 years is terrifying. After I completed my associate's degree, I got married and had kids. After many years of being a stay-at-home mom, I found myself in a new reality as a single mom of 3. I knew that I had to go back to school to finish my degree, to get a job that would pay the bills. I started looking at online universities so that I wouldn't have to actually see anyone or have to be in a room with a bunch of 18-year-olds who I'm like, I could be your mom. But that didn't work for me because I wanted a degree in psychology, which requires almost all face-to-face courses. So I knew that I needed to look closer to home. Just about that time, my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. And we were taking multiple trips to and from Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And when she went into remission, I knew that I had to keep going. I had to keep looking for a university to get the degree, to get the job. And on our many rides to and from Baltimore, I saw a bunch of UMBC billboards. And I was like, well, maybe that's a sign, because it is a sign that I should apply. So I did. I was accepted and now I'm here. But getting here was rough.
While searching for a university, I met a girl at a workshop in Iran who was saying goodbye to her friends because she was coming to UMBC to study intermedia and digital arts, the same program I'm studying now. And it was the beginning of my journey with UMBC. Surprisingly, when I arrived here, I ran into the same girl, and it was comforting when she talked about her experiences with UMBC. So I started adjusting myself with this new place. However, being an immigrant could be tough and overwhelming, and everything can be even more overwhelming when you hear distressing news from your home country.
When I applied to colleges, I applied as a sociology major. I was planning on just doing theater for fun, so I asked if it was okay for non-majors to take theater classes, and I was invited to the theater department meeting before the first day of school, and the rest, as they say, is history. I changed my major, got accepted into the BFA program, and I decided to disappoint my parents with my whole chest.
Kainoa, you're Black too, right? My mom always told me, never turn your back to the ocean because the ocean is powerful and meant to be respected. At this moment, it felt like a wave had washed on me from behind, filling my mouth and nose with salty water. In an instant, hundreds of years of oppression and brutality became mine to carry. Then things started to get more complicated. I knew that my dad was Black, and I was just like him and my grandparents, but my mom and none of my family on her side were. And then questions started to come in from kids at school. Why is your mom so much lighter than you? Why is your dad so much darker than you? Where are you from? No, where are you really from? So I went home and asked her, where are we from? She laughed. I'm from Hawaii, but you're from Maryland. Okay, so we're Hawaiian? She laughed a little harder. No, my mom is Filipino and my dad is white. I'm from Hawaii, but I'm not native Hawaiian. I tried to explain this to kids at school. Oh, so you're mixed. Okay, so you're Blasian, like black and Asian. I grew and I started to understand more of my identity, and the more I learned about myself, the more I found myself in the middle of so many areas. If you are both this and that, is there anywhere where you really just are?
I found out with transferring I would have at least one extra year of undergrad as opposed to the traditional 4-year model, unless I did this exception, which was taking maximum credits every semester until I graduated. For context, full-time at UMBC is considered 12 credits, which is about 4 classes a week. Max without permission is 19. I was taking 22 a semester. So needless to say, I was overworked. Really, my days consisted of me running back and forth across campus. I wouldn't get home sometimes until 11 o'clock, sometimes midnight, and I would still have homework. It was really a case of, am I going to eat tonight or am I going to go to bed? A lot of the time that manifested in me falling asleep in class. I remember I would wake up just folded over these tiny little desks and I would feel so guilty, you know? With that, my grades were slipping and I had friends, but not really time to socialize with any of them. So college in general just became this thing that I was so intent on getting done that I wasn't really present for any of it.
So about a year after I came out, it was time for my junior year to start, and I was having a repeating conversation with my mom. I've never exactly been a social person most of my life, and my mom wanted me to start taking steps to change that by going to join some clubs on campus. She also thought it'd be good because even though I had been out for a while, we didn't really know how to move forward. So I started looking for some clubs on campus, and that's how I learned about the Pride Center, located in the University Center, right at the center of the campus, and the events they would be doing called the Small Sensible Chill Night. I decided I would go check it out to get my mom to back off. I'd meet some new people and never talk to any of them again. Get out of class, nice cool fall evening, pop in there, and I'm surprised to be greeted with this. Very chill atmosphere, dim lights, not a lot of people, and everyone's just sort of lounging around, listening to music, playing board games, and all I was thinking was, I can absolutely work with this for a night. So I pop in, introduce myself, and just join in on the activities. About an hour or so later, it comes time for me to leave and head back to my apartment. And there was still a voice in the back of my head saying, you don't need to go back, you're done. But I did go back next week, and the week after that. And then I started hanging out with them outside of that, going to the mall, just hanging out at the Pride Center, or checking out the Pride Week on campus. It was subtle at first, but I was coming out of my shell and starting to feel more comfortable, not just with the people around me, but with myself.
So there I was laying in bed one night, the month left in the semester. I was waiting for my teacher to post a grade. I was refreshing my phone, and soon enough the notification came in. I opened it up, I scrolled down, looked at my grade, and to my disbelief, I actually failed the exam. And mind you, this is just not any regular course, this is a gateway course. And for those who don't know, a gateway course means you need a B or higher to move forward in your major. Anything lower than that, you will be held back a semester. Being of an African descent, this isn't something that my dad wants to hear.
After months had passed, disturbing news from Iran about a significant protest called Women Life Freedom were spreading out worldwide. Young individuals were being killed or arrested on the street. That news deeply saddened me, and I had no idea how I could help them. I want to help people to understand we are strong and resilient people with great culture and history. Instead of pity, the only things we need is solidarity.
I felt my confidence slowly rise from the ashes because I realized I spent so much time in my life making myself smaller and quieter, and by the time I got to my junior year, I was starting to feel better about my abilities to be an actor. Then I had a really difficult challenge ahead of me because I found out that Girls on a Dirt Pile would be produced next year. I was so excited to read the rough draft of it. I fell so in love with the story, the characters, the world of the play, everything. It was one of those things that called me so strongly. I felt like I had to be a part of the story.
Then in 2016, I joined the Students for Social Justice Club at my high school. I learned about intersectionality. Coined by civil rights activist and critical race theorist Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989, intersectionality is defined as how all of our identities and our existence on margins and areas of privilege inform the way that we move through space and society. I learned that I could be Black, Filipino, queer, all at the same time. That felt really good.
And then the COVID-19 pandemic hit and everything went online, and I was setting up my schedule for the following semester. I figured I would do 22 still because, it's all online anyway, we can get that done. And I had to have a meeting with the chair of the theater department in order to get permission for that. I was on the Zoom waiting room, and I remember seeing my mother's dining room table with all these papers stacked across it, all these potential schedules, because I was not going to accept no for an answer. And then the meeting started and it went well, but the chair said something to me I still think about to this day. Don't be a martyr to your education. And it was like, wow, for the first time someone had told me you don't have to do this in the traditional way. You're allowed to take your time. And that was mind-blowing. I ended up leaving that meeting with only 15 credits for the next semester and the knowledge that I would have 2 more years of undergrad. When I told my mom that, she was concerned naturally, and I remember seeing her kind of lean in with her chest all like this, and she said, "So did you waste time transferring?" And what I realized in that moment was, no, I didn't waste time transferring. I had been wasting my time going to school, but sort of just letting it all pass by. So I decided to slow down, and I'm really glad I did.
The next day came around, and guess who's calling me? My dad. I picked up the phone and said, "How you doing, son? I hope everything is going well. You're doing well in all your classes." I was like, yeah, I am. Just knowing that I'm lying to him because I'm actually feeling an important course. As the conversation was ending, my dad said, "Just remember to stay focused and put God first in everything you do." So as the call ended, I thought to myself, this is a little bit corny, but I feel like that's as good as any time to actually apply it to myself. So, I took the advice of staying focused and putting God first, and I went back to my room, opened up my notes app. I was putting out everything I needed to do, going to the tutoring center, going to office hours, watching YouTube videos, doing this, doing that. Anything I can just do to get my grade up. And wouldn't you know it, the end of the semester came around, and solely of applying the advice of staying focused and putting God first, I was able to actually get my grade up from a C to a B in just the span of 1 month and pass the class.
I went to orientation and then to a commuter and transfer welcome day hosted by Off-Campus Student Services. Coming back to college, or coming to college in general, you can reimagine who you are. You can be whoever you want because nobody knows your history. And I considered, well, what do I want to be? I don't want to be the cancer mom. I don't want to be the divorced girl. So I thought, okay, I just will pretend they never happened. So I did admit that I was 33. And the assistant director for Transfer Student Success said, "Oh, we have an adult learner and veterans breakfast on Thursday. You should come." And I said, "Am I an adult learner just because I'm really old?" And he said, "Yes, but also it's just over 25 and pursuing your bachelor's." And I said, "Yeah, I'm definitely going to come. That sounds so great." And I wasn't going to go. But I think he sensed it because he looked me dead in the face as I was leaving and said, "I will see you there." And I knew it wasn't an order, but it really gave me the courage to go, knowing that somebody knew me and was expecting me.
My growth wasn't really put into context for me until after my junior year ended. I was in a video call with some friends when one of them told me, "Morgan, going to that first chill night completely changed the course of your life." And she was totally right. I felt like I was more comfortable exploring my identity as a whole, especially my gender identity. I was able to start medical transition, change my name to something that suited me, but most importantly, define myself outside of any stereotypes and really just be myself. And outside of that, I had the confidence and energy to work on myself beyond just figuring out my gender. Came to terms with being neurodivergent. I started to find myself more motivated to succeed not just in my classes, but in my life, and to deepen my relationship with my friends. I can't say it's all been perfect. There's been a lot of academic struggles, social life issues, and mental health struggles. But tell me one college that won't have that. What they might not have is what UMBC gave me, which is a support network that has never left me and become so important to me. With them, I felt like I could get through anything. And that's just what I have to say to everyone watching. If you were like me at the first and you don't really like putting yourself out there, do the best you can to try. And someday you'll become the person you were always meant to be.
So after that semester was over, I thought about what my grades look like and what my life looked like if I actually applied that advice of staying focused and putting God first to my whole life in general. I still felt like something was missing, and that missing piece was CWIT, an organization that's given me so much, from C&D one-on-ones monthly to even providing me with a mentor of my own. And I felt like what better way to give back to CWIT than by becoming a mentor in the program myself. And that's exactly what I did. I became a mentor in CWIT, looking after freshmen and giving them advices and making sure they don't make the same mistakes that I made in my freshman year. And just looking back at my life, I feel like it's so funny, from going to the boy in the basement of Chesapeake that was so timid to not only now introducing myself to the new president of UMBC, Dr. Kiirstn Ashby, but to also talking to the governor of Maryland, Mr. Westmore. It's okay to doubt yourself, but never let your doubt define who you are. No matter how low you are in life, find a way to get back up, stay focused, and keep pushing. The UMBC has provided me with the community and the support that I needed. Next semester, if any of you freshmen have any questions, you can always reach out to me if you see me around the school, and I'm more than willing to provide you with the support that UMBC has provided for me.
Thankfully, that time I remember UMBC reached out via email offering assistance to Iranian students who may need someone to talk to. I discovered every nation has its own association at UMBC. It was a great discovery. We are not alone in our experiences during our education here. I discovered my association, Iranian Graduate Student Association, IGSA, made significant contributions to the protesters in Iran. In March, we received an email from IGSA inviting all Iranian students to celebrate Iranian New Year. When I arrived, many people had come, including non-Iranian friends. I have vivid memories of that time when everyone was enjoying the celebration, and it was touching to see people who are not from Iran were interested in our culture by taking photos around our Hafsin table, which is traditionally displayed at Nowruz. They were dancing with our pop music to unite with us. All moments like that make me satisfied of knowing that we are more than media portrayed. And as international students, immigrant, and artists, I believe that it is important to rediscover our bonds with our culture. I'm glad to say that UMBC provides a supportive atmosphere for expressing our true identities.
So I decided to slow down, and I'm really glad I did. My grades improved. I got a 4.0 every semester after that point. I finally found community. I got really close with the English and theater departments here, which are two very queer spaces, may I add. So that allowed me to explore things such as my gender identity, my sexual identity, and just who I am as an artist. Slowing down also let me take on additional degrees. When I graduated, it was with a Bachelor of the Fine Arts in Acting, a Bachelor of the Arts in English, and a minor in creative writing. And I can tell you my mom was just as proud to watch me walk across that stage with 3 degrees as she would have been had I forced myself to do this in 4 years. And I'm really grateful that that happened too, because now I am going to grad school in Los Angeles as a working actor and published author, and I'm still allowed to incorporate all of my disciplines into my daily life, and I'm really grateful for that. I don't know if I hadn't slowed down that I would still be on that track. I think we get a really stereotypical image through media of, the whole 4-year Ivy League model, but that's not everyone's truth, and that's okay. UMBC is where your story belongs, and please, by all means, take your time.
I came to college and I joined organizations like the Filipino American Student Association, and I got to learn more about my identities in a way that I never had before. So where does that leave me? What happened to that boy who was set adrift in an ocean surrounded by islands that felt like home but were just out of reach, being washed over and over from all directions by waves of oppression and impositions of how I was supposed to be? I built bridges, and I created a place for myself where I was connected to all of these things at once. I am Black, I am Filipino, I'm American, I'm bisexual, I'm all of these things at the same time. And I'm also so much more than that. I'm an actor, I'm a musician, I'm a dancer, I am a friend, a student, a teacher. All of these identities I wear proudly. I'm here taking up space in all of these ways, and I deserve to be here. Don't ever let anybody tell you how to define yourself or how to box yourself in. Figure out what works for you and take up that space because you belong here.
So there I was, 7 days into my first semester. I'm getting off the elevator on the 3rd floor of Commons into a waiting room full of people. And I'm wondering if these are just random students or students like me. I assumed they weren't students like me because I assumed I'm the only one like me. So I went over and sat down while I waited for the dinner to start, and I went to pull out my phone, like I was busy, like I was cool, I had people to call, and a chipper voice says, "Hi, I'm Sophia." I looked up into a smiling face, and I was so relieved, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Megan. Are you here for the dinner?" And she said she was. I asked if she was a veteran or if she was an adult learner, and she first thanked me for thinking she was under 25. But then said she was 37 and that she was a dependent. At that moment, a gentleman plops on the couch next to her. "I'm 37 too, oh my gosh." So that's how we met Billy. He also was a veteran. We chatted a little, but then when the doors opened to Skylight, we went in for the dinner. We sat at a table together, and as we sat there, we discussed things like our career, hopes, and our degrees, but it was pretty surface. I realized that if I wanted to have authentic friendship, I was going to have to share more of the pieces of myself. I was going to have to share that I'm divorced because that's part of who I am. And I would have to share that I'm an adult learner because that is part of who I am. And I was going to have to share about my daughter's cancer diagnosis because even though these pieces of my life are hard and they aren't pretty, they are the pieces that make me who I am. And when I put them in place, I realized that they belonged here the whole time.
When auditions rolled around, I was so determined to prove myself, but I was not confident that I would be cast. But I was. I was shocked, excited. Yeah, rehearsals were tough, but it was worth it. I wouldn't want to work that hard for anything else. We found out that we were going to perform at the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. It felt like all of our blood, sweat, and tears were finally validated, and we would be able to share that story with so many people. We were so excited. We packed up everything, threw it into some trucks. We head down to DC. The day before we were supposed to perform, we had to put everything back together piece by piece. As I was filling the middle part of the set with the little rubber pieces of dirt that we had, I was looking around and just admiring the beautiful newfound family that we created. There were electricians, furiously focusing lights. I could hear the sound of all the power tools. I felt at home, and I felt like I really belonged. When we performed the next day, I had this elated, tingly feeling inside that I can't even explain, but we were able to support each other through all the training and the learning, and now here we were doing the thing we loved together off campus for the first time. Now all of us are in professional productions in Baltimore and DC, still doing our thing together. Your dreams are possible, and they can come true. You just need the support system that you'll find here to be able to do it.